Thank you, Steve, for that beautiful, welcoming music. And here's a welcoming talk for you. Welcome to Interfaith Community Sanctuary. Good morning, everybody. It's a wonderful day to be together. We welcome the folks who are out online, tuning in to us through the live stream channel. We welcome everybody who had the energy to get up and come to the service in person, to this beautiful sanctuary that we use so frequently to bring us together and have what we hope are positive and evolving and beautiful experiences together. And today is the 5th Sunday of August. Every few months we get a 5th Sunday, kind of as a treat. And I want to open this service with our bell to say that we are officially open for service. We think of that as our bell of remembrance, that why are we here? We're here together to explore our spiritual journey and see how each of us can contribute to each other's spiritual awakening in community. And today, Imam Jamal Rahman and myself, the co-ministers here at Interfaith Community Sanctuary, will be giving some short talks about the spiritual discernment that we're working on as a community throughout this whole calendar year, and where we are as we approach the last quarter of the year, and give us some things to think about and talk about, and then we'll divide into some very small groups of just three each, and do some reflection and contemplation on those themes, and then come back together to kind of summarize what we've learned. And we're going to begin, though, with our traditional opening processes. The first one, I've already lit the lamps here. These are the World Peace Camp candles, World Peace lamps, and world peace is something we must not forget how important it is and how rare it is, unfortunately, in our world, to feel experiencing peace, global peace. But we're not giving up on the possibility that we can reach world peace, and we know that world peace begins with inner peace. And so we'll work with that today and hope and keep intending that our own personal peace spreads out more and more to the world. And we also have a little altar here representing the divine feminine energy that we each carry within us. The energies of masculine and feminine in the world can get out of balance. We've seen that happen. And we would like to always do our part to rebalance the divine feminine and the divine masculine in the energy that we carry here at this sanctuary. So we will begin by inviting our ancestors in to worship with us, and I've asked Steve Crawford to help with that.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to welcome in our ancestors now. So let's just close our eyes and let's picture some memories with your family, your parents, your grandparents, and then just back through history, all the human beings that came before our present families. And then even the human species has ancestors, because we're new to this planet. I mean, because the history of life goes back so far. And we wouldn't be here without all those other ancestors. So it's a very long chain. And we are so lucky to be alive. So I welcome them in. We appreciate everything you've done so that we could exist and carry on the torch. And life is a miracle, and having ancestors is one of the greatest blessings so that we can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And we carry our ancestors within us, even in our genetics, in the cells of our body. So that will come up again in the service today. So keep that in your mind as well. And actually, a very important segue to our ancestors is our honoring of the native people of this land. This land that we stand upon, that this building is standing upon, this historic building, which is the oldest wood frame church in King County that still exists as a house of worship and has been existing since 1890. And we are on the historic registry, and we are very proud of the care that we take with this building. But the building stands on land that was actually unceded territory from the Native American people who lived here before us, before the white settlers came and colonized. And they're still with us. They live here today, and many of the tribes in the Coast Salish region are recognized, and some are not recognized by the federal government. And the Duwamish tribe, which is the tribe that Chief Sealth belonged to, after whom Seattle was named, that tribe has not received national federal recognition yet. But we like to recognize their existence and their contributions, and in particular, to tie it up with the ancestors, it was a very important Native American philosophy not to just think about all our ancestors who came before us, but our descendants as well. Because remember, each one of us sitting here today will become an ancestor in the future to others who come after us. And our descendants, I know that what I have read, one of the things I've read about the Native American traditions, they always said, don't do anything that would make it any more difficult for 7 generations ahead of yourself to survive and thrive on this land. Now, 7 generations, that's not a whole lot. I know, I have families I know who have 4 generations who are still alive today. It's rare, but it happens. And 7 generations is out there. And if we can even think of the next 7 generations surviving whatever we do to this planet, I think we'd be better off than living life as if we are the beginning, the middle, and the end of it all. So I'd like to bring that in as a tribute to the Native American people whose teachings are still with us, whose lives are still with us. We have a beautiful Native American group that meets once a month and also every week to do their medicine circle. So think about that as you worship today, that we are part of an unending stream of ancestors and descendants that go through many different races and cultures of people in this beautiful land we call the United States. I'm also going to do a short reading by a Lakota. It's actually a Lakota prayer, and to me it also honors the divine feminine in our midst. And so in honor of the divine feminine, in honor of our Native American neighbors and friends, and in honor of all of our ancestors and descendants, I read this Lakota prayer. Great mystery, teach me how to trust my heart, my mind, my intuition, my inner knowing, the senses of my body, the blessings of my spirit. Teach me to trust these things so that I may enter my sacred space and love beyond my fear, and thus walk in balance with the passing of each glorious sun. I feel like I could end the service right there. It really pretty much says it all, doesn't it? Do you mind if I read it one more time? Great mystery, teach me how to trust my heart, my mind, my intuition, my inner knowing, the senses of my body, the blessings of my spirit. Teach me to trust these things so that I may enter my sacred space and love beyond my fear, and thus walk in balance with the passing of each glorious sun. So may it be. Lakota prayer. So, with our opening ceremonies setting the tone for us, I also want to, I think I'm going to sit down for the next part. If you don't mind. I wanted to open with a little bit of discussion about the spiritual discernment that we've been working on here at Interfaith Community Sanctuary all year. If you turn to the very back of your program, and I have just the focus for this last quarter of the year. The last quarter will be October, November, December, but we're coming into the ending part of the year. And these last 3 or 4 months, our focus is on this concept of understanding and cutting through the illusion of, quote, living beings, and replace it with the understanding that we are in relationship with and dependent upon every aspect of our Mother Earth and the universe. Now, this cutting through and understanding has to do with a very, very ancient spiritual text called the Diamond Sutra that goes back, I guess it would be connected with Hinduism. Isn't that right, Jamal? Would that be considered a part of the Hindu scripture, the Diamond Sutra? Buddhist, okay. In the Diamond Sutra, they call it the Diamond Sutra because the diamond is the sharpest mineral that we know of, the one that would cut through most everything. And in this sutra that went back many, many, many centuries, the wise people said that we live in a lot of illusions as human beings. We think we know certain things or understand certain things, but we have a limited understanding. And they are asking us to expand our understanding, our viewpoint, and how we see the world and the cosmos and the universe. And it's amazing, how did ancient people know about the cosmos? Well, they looked up in the sky, for one thing, and they noticed at night there was stuff going on up there, right, that they didn't have any connection with that they knew of. They didn't know what was going on up there in the heavens. And so the cosmos became something for them to be contemplating. And it's something that we should be contemplating as well, because we're very much a part of it. And so that's a big overall theme of the end, the last, part of this year. How can we not focus so much on those beings that are living, like ourselves right now, sitting in front of us, the animals, the trees, but all beings and all aspects of Mother Earth, the water, the oceans, the tides, the typhoons, the storms, everything, the stars, everything is a part of the cosmos. And whether it's living or not is just a label we might put on it. But it's still part of us, and we are part of it. Now, the other two areas of focus are more specifically based on some of the teachings that we're learning about in this book by Thich Nhat Hanh, Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet. And one of the focuses, again, of the Buddhist tradition, and Thich Nhat Hanh's tradition also is Buddhist, and is the principle of active nonviolence, awakened action, transforming pain into compassionate action. Now, the Buddhists tell us that the human experience involves all kinds of emotions, positive, negative, good and bad, we might say, things that make us feel good, things that hurt us inside, outside. But we're not to just sit with those things and endure it or deny it, but we're to delve deeply into our own hearts and awaken to the right kind of action that can help make the world a better place. So it is suggested that that awakening takes place on several levels. First, it takes place on the individual level. A difficult feeling comes up with us, or we have a fear, we have maybe an aversion to something, we have an anger towards something, and we want to be aware of that within ourselves, maybe work with it, analyze it, hold it, like you would with a child who comes to you. Oh, so many times at Green Lake, I see a little child running so happily, and then boom, they fall down, sometimes right on their face. And my heart just goes, oh. And the mother rushes up and takes the child and holds the child to herself. And it takes a moment before the child starts crying. There's a shock, silence, and then, and they start feeling the pain, right? This has happened to me many times at Green Lake, and it's powerful. It's a powerful thing because I watch it in front of me happen, and I see the child go down, and I want to stop it, but I can't. But the mother takes the child in the arms and holds the child until the child calms down and is better, and that's very comforting. So those are ways that we handle the difficulties that come up in our lives as individuals. And it's not just children, right? We all have our pain, our sorrow, our difficult moments, and somehow we have to learn to seek out others who can comfort us and also learn to comfort ourselves in those moments. And there's a step beyond that as well, which is the collective awakening in beloved community. And in this model, what Thich Nhat concludes by the end of his book is that spiritual seekers cannot depend simply on themselves or even their God, if they believe in a God or a divine force or a divine process. We cannot do it alone. We need each other as the part of the human family, and we need to awaken in community. Now, this is an interesting concept because in some aspects, when people of faith join a community and start awakening in community, they can become a tribe that believes they're better than other communities and that other communities are doing it all wrong and they're doing it all right, right? So I know as a child, I grew up being suspicious of religious communities, frankly. And my parents, I think, unconsciously kind of taught me, well, you should definitely respect all religions, and there's a lot of truth and beauty in religion, but be careful. And don't swear allegiance to a religion too quickly. And they taught me that somehow, without putting it exactly into those words. And I think that because of their own upbringing, my father was a Russian Jew, and my mother was a Greek Orthodox, which is a Catholic, Eastern Orthodox tradition. And they both suffered a lot by virtue of their interfaith marriage when they got married, because everybody thought that was just a no-no. Those two religions couldn't come together and have a family. And even though they were married for almost 60 years and had 5 children, still, it wasn't really right to do that, according to many of their family relatives. Anyway, they felt that religion and religious loyalty to a certain religion caused a lot of the problems in the world. And, we can't deny that. It does happen because people who want to get into power have learned how powerful religious and spiritual beliefs are. And I think that there are times when they try to manipulate people to their own ends through their religious beliefs. So when we talk about community, we're talking about, and Jamal's going to talk more about this. He's going to talk a little bit about how we define an interfaith community that accepts differences but still wants us to depend on each other for help with our spiritual development. And what I would like to start us out thinking about is how we transform those difficult feelings individually in ourselves, but especially when we are out in the world. Like, let's say we're in a situation with our family. Maybe it's a family dinner, or we're getting together with some siblings that we haven't seen in a long time. Maybe it's a family reunion, something like that. And something difficult comes up among us. And the question is, can we use our Buddhist teachings and our what they call our bodhisattva nature to deal with that kind of a difficulty in a real live action way of bringing our best self to that situation? And we've all experienced it. I think we've experienced sometimes somebody else will enter a conversation like that and just kind of have just the right thing to say or the right thing to hear and listen to carefully and maybe reflect upon that will calm the situation, help people understand better what the conflict might be. And that's what Thich Nhat Hanh calls bringing forth our bodhisattva nature. Can we try to stay calm within ourselves and bring that peace and that calmness and that compassion and that beauty into a situation which is actually troublesome? Because there are difficult situations going on all the time around us. I'm going to give you one example of that, and then I'm going to I want you to be thinking about an example you might be able to think of in your own life. Not long ago, this summer, just a couple of months ago, 2 of my sisters and I got together. I come from a family of 5 siblings, four girls, 1 boy. And 3 of us were together here in Seattle and decided to take a week and go up to Orcas Island and have a little vacation together, which was a lovely idea. And we've done it a couple of years in the past. And this year, one of my sisters lives here in Seattle, one lives out in North Carolina, and she came out. And I was a little nervous at the beginning of knowing the anticipation of our week together, because I thought, I wonder how we're going to get along together. Because I know from having gone back in my own childhood archives, and we're all 4 years apart. Like my oldest sister is 4 years older than the next sister, who's 4 years older than me. So we have quite a span there. And we all consider ourselves very close. And, wow, we can get pretty animated and even agitated when we're together. We talk. And we don't always listen. and our emotions go up, up, up. So at the beginning of our time together, when we were just getting into our new little home that we had rented, a little condo, I said, sisters, I'm going to ask for a favor here. I want this to be a very thoughtful time together, and I want us to pay attention, if you're willing, pay attention to some ways that we communicate with each other. I said, because I had decided, I had thought about it a lot in my own meditation prior to the meeting. What was I worried about? What was I nervous about? And it had a lot to do with how we communicate with each other. And so I asked my sisters, and they listened carefully, and they respect me, and they listened. I said, I really want us to focus together on how we communicate and to try to do three things. And I blamed it all on Jamal. I said, Jamal tells us, and they know Jamal, they know how much I honor and respect Jamal. Jamal tells us that one of the main problems in communication is we don't listen carefully. The second thing is when we talk, we don't regulate our tone of voice. And the third thing is when we talk, our volume is too high. We start to shout at each other. We start to talk louder because we think the people aren't listening. And my sisters are going, yeah, that sounds familiar. I said, and we all do it because we do, and I do too. And I said, can we please just try to pay attention to those things as we communicate this week? And they're like, well, okay. And, it was interesting because the week progressed very differently than it would have otherwise. And let me tell you, there were some very tense moments. We're not afraid to talk about difficult topics. We'll talk about politics. We'll talk about abortion. We'll talk about all kinds of things. Religion, the environment, politics, anything. And we mostly are all good people and agree on a lot of good values, but we're also all different. And so the differences come out and we get agitated. But what I want to point out is that many times throughout the weekend, we were able to stop ourselves, calm down the tone, calm down the volume, continue the conversation rather than just leave the room and slam the door or whatever. And by the end of the week together, here's the interesting thing that happened. We started talking about our childhood experiences. Now, that wasn't something that I think has ever come up between us. We were remembering things from our childhood. And like I said, we're 4 years apart, each of us. So when my oldest sister left home to go to college at age 16, I was only 8. So I didn't know her that well at home. I got to know her more as an adult when I lived around her. And my sister Natalie was 4 years older than me, and she babysat for me when I was a child. And I have another sister 8 years younger than me. So we have a kind of a spread. But we were remembering and questioning and curious about different experiences we had in our childhood. And I think that came because we were really honestly working on the present and getting a handle on how we were dealing with each other, communicating with each other in the present, which opened the doors to the past. And from that, we learned some very interesting, I think, wonderful things about each of us and about how we experienced our own family. So to me, that was an example. I've been working it through ever since it was over and feeling so good about it. And that we all had sort of made that pact to work together and to try harder to be our own true selves. So before we start our conversation, I've asked George to lead us in an important meditation, which he has talked about in the past, but I don't think we've practiced it yet this year. I think we have in the past. It's the Tonglen meditation. He spoke about it a little bit last Sunday, and I asked him if he would lead us in that meditation, and then we'll go into some small group discussions about the topic of this that I've just brought up about how do we handle personal difficulties that come up in our lives when we are in community with others. George, do you want to come up here?
Thank you, Sally Jo. So Sally Jo asked me to talk about a particular practice, one that's called Tonglen, and many of you may have heard of it already and may be practicing it. I hope you have. And while it may sound like an exotic term, Tonglen, it's very simple. Tong just simply means sending or giving, and Len means receiving or taking. And I like to go a little bit beyond that in light of what we're talking about here, and that is not only is it receiving, it's accepting, learning acceptance. And the practice of Tonglen, this whole giving and taking practice, it goes back a long way. And I think the first time we actually see it in writing goes back to about 10th or 11th century, when some of this Buddhist transmission was going up to Tibet, and there was a what they call Lojong 7 points mind training, and within that there was this whole process of giving and taking was explained, and so it began quite a while ago. And but some of you may be more familiar. Back in the 1980s or whatever it was, someplace along there, a Buddhist nun from up in Nova Scotia by the name of Pema Chodron, she kind of popularized a modern version of Tonglen. And it's really a simple practice. As a matter of fact, it's a practice that we unwittingly do about 20,000 times a day, and that's called breathing, and so we just naturally breathe in and we naturally breathe out. And the thing is, it has become a real integral part of my, for lack of a better word, spiritual practice. That sounds a bit highfalutin, but when I first was introduced to it, I was introduced to it as part of a structured practice. We would sit on a cushion and do meditation, and we would actually do this Tonglen. But one of the things I learned about it, and I'm hoping something you can learn about it, is that this is not a rigid, fixed practice that you have to learn and memorize and follow it, to the letter. It really is something that you internalize, and it's like a new pair of shoes or something. You break it in, and suddenly they're yours. I can't say never. I rarely do it any longer as part of my daily meditation practice, but I use it often. I use Tonglen often. And normally it is when I hear somebody do something, say something mean-spirited or vitriolic, and it's not hard to find these days. If you turn on the TV, you turn on the radio, plenty of opportunity. And probably most of our tendencies is when we hear something like that is to react, to get angry, or to sadly maybe even join in on the vitriol and say nasty things about somebody in return or whatever it is. But this Tonglen is basically the idea of bringing in discomfort, somebody else's pain or your pain, allowing it to enter you. And then through the grace of compassion, we transform that into loving kindness, into loving and light. And so it's a catharsis, it's a purging process. And so then rather than contributing to the specter of negativity in the world, we try to do our little bit to mitigate it by sending light and love. And I think there's something to that. So these days, most times, I will have my exceptions, when I'll hear something, some politician say something, and then I just have this visceral feeling. It's kind of almost like presses on my chest. And since I've been doing this for so long, what it does now is it just triggers this Tonglen practice we're going to go through in a second. And then rather than having this reaction, I go through this process. And so what it really does, I don't think it does much, if anything, for the other person, even though I'm sending them light and love. It may, and I hope it does, but it takes that away from me. It takes that bitterness, it takes that vitriol I mentioned, it takes that, dare I say it, hatred away, and allows me to find peace and comfort instead of anxiety and discomfort. So look, if you're willing to participate, let's just try to go through this, and I'll try to explain it as we go. This simple Tonglen exercise, and it's interesting because when Sally Joe was reading that poem, the idea of breathing in discomfort is an anathema. It's not something that we would choose to do normally. But the idea of this Tonglen is not to take ownership of this pain of others, or this even the pain that we are generating in ourselves. It is simply a matter of accepting the reality of it, allowing it to be sensitive, and to feel compassion. Because the ultimate purpose of the whole Tonglen exercise is to cultivate compassion. And the very definition of compassion is to feel somebody else's pain deeply, at the same time have a desire to want to do something about it. And we're talking from this book here, from the Buddhist standpoint, there's a concept called bodhicitta, and that's basically bringing this sense of compassion and loving kindness into our lives. So at this point, if you'll just sort of close your eyes, sit back, get comfortable, and let's just start by just breathing. Just begin to focus on your breath. So as you breathe in, just be present with breathing in, and as you breathe out, be present with breathing out. And like any other kind of practice like this is, you're going to have distracting thoughts, but as you have distracting thoughts, just let them arise, let go of them, and then just simply return to connecting with your breath. Now, this may be a little difficult, but I'm going to ask you to deliberately bring to mind something you normally would find difficult or painful to think about. It could be personal, something that you're dealing with. It could be somebody, a friend or relative that you know who's in distress. It can be a group of people who share a malady that you're experiencing, or someone you love is experiencing. It can even be a huge group of people, like the flood victims in Texas and Indiana, or even in Tibet. Please try to bring that into your consciousness. It's our traditional habit to brace ourselves against discomfort. But today we're asking that you turn toward that discomfort. So once you have that image of some difficult feeling, or that difficult or painful feeling, once you have that clearly in your consciousness, try to link that to your breath. So on the inhale, we invite in that darkness, that suffering, that pain. We allow it to enter into our heart, where it's going to be transformed into light. With that in-breath, you breathe in someone's suffering with the desire to take away that suffering. And with the out-breath, we send out light and love, comfort, and happiness to those who are affected. So just breathe in. Breathe out. And when you exhale, breathe out the light and your wish to help to alleviate the pain and suffering of others. And just be with that for a minute or two, just breathing in and breathing out. Depending on what you chose as your image to focus on, you could try to expand it now. If you were focusing on yourself, you can expand it to loved ones. If you're thinking of loved ones, you can expand it to your community. If you're thinking of a community, you could expand it as far as you want. The limits are only your imagination. So as we conclude this practice, just go back for a moment to let yourself have the peace and comfort of just following your breath, breathing in, breathing out. As you breathe in, be mindful of your breath, breathing in. And as you breathe out, be mindful of your breath going out. And be at peace. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Let's have a little transition here. Jamal, could you lead us in a chant real quick, and then we'll get into our small groups and do a little discussion.
Well, since we've talked about Buddhism, let's do Om Mane Padme Hum, Om to the jewel in the lotus of my heart. Om Mane Padme Hum. Om Mane Padme Hum. Om Mane Padme Hum. Raising your voice now. Om Mane Padme Hum. 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 Thank you, Saliju.
So at this time, we'd like you to gather in groups of 3 or so, or three not more than three, two or three. And there's some questions on the inside of your order of service. I think you each have one. Under Part 1, Active Nonviolence, which is what we've kind of been talking about. And there are two questions there. You can answer one or both, depending on, we'll have about 7 minutes, 8 minutes, and people can answer one or the other, or if you have time, both. And you could also, if something else strong has come up in your mind related to that topic, you can also discuss that. But we are basically focusing on methods that you currently find helpful to transform your own difficult emotions, and or can you share a situation when you wanted to transform a difficult situation with other people involving maybe, say, families, friends, colleagues, etc., and your hope was to have a positive outcome when you were facing that or transforming that situation. And then how did that go? Because we can know it can be illuminating how that goes. If you feel drawn to one of those questions or something similar. So let's pull our chairs just around in threes here. And Steve, if yours left over, you and I could talk, or you could join in, or or Jamal, maybe why don't you talk with Glenn? Yeah, and we'll give you. I'll time it. So be sure each of you has a little chance. Maybe 3 minutes each should be good. We have about 9 minutes total. And people at home, if you're listening, if you have someone to talk to, this would be great as well. Okay, let's bring this portion to a close, if you can. And we'll have some more time. We'll also have some time to share insights in a little bit, but I'd like to move in to the second theme that Jamal is going to talk to us a little bit about, which is this second part of how do we work in community to share our interfaith model and our principles of collective awakening in beloved community.
My dear friends, let's all gather in a circle once again, and let's do a few ohms. Deep breath. Couple more times. One last time. I make a very uncharacteristic promise. I promise to be very brief, actually. So, interfaith, 4 aspects. The first question is to ask myself and to you to ask yourself. I wrote it down what the question was. What are the factors that motivated you to embrace interfaith understanding in your life? So as you're thinking about it, let me tell you my experience. For me, it was just circumstantial. My father is a diplomat, my late father, and my mother. And so traveling fostered interfaith understanding. You know, because of my parents, I've lived in Hindu country, several Muslim countries, a Buddhist country, several Christian countries. You know, in the Quran, there's a wonderful verse. Allah has spread out the earth as a carpet for you, so you may walk therein on spacious paths. If you travel and you meet people of different colors, religions, cultures, you cultivate an inner spaciousness. Then Prophet Muhammad, he said, travel as far as China. I've not gone that far. Sally Joe's going to China, by the way, in the next few days, so we'll hear more about China. Just travel, meet people. So that was one factor. The other factor for me was my parents were very open-minded. So they encouraged their children to attend churches, besides mosques, temples. I've been to synagogues. In fact, when we lived in Rome, I remember our neighbors, they would take me, I have a brother, my sister was not born at that time, to these Catholic churches. And I've probably attended more Mass, consumed more, what do you call them, wafers? Than I think maybe all of you put together. Or, you know, every Sunday, actually, I consumed those wafers. I think every time I thought it would be something sweet. It never was sweet, you know. Okay, so that is what motivated me, my circumstances in my life. Okay. The second question, aspect is, what does interfaith mean to you? So for me, interfaith, because of my parents' teaching, for me it means that I'm rooted in my Islamic tradition, but I'm open to the beauty and wisdom of other traditions. And doing that, I found, like my parents told me, if you do that, you'll find that by being open to the beauty and wisdom of other traditions, this waters your own roots. So I know from personal experience, by studying different religions, I've become a better Muslim and a more developed, evolved, I feel, because of that, human being, more perfected human being. Which is why my parents always said, interfaith is not about conversion. Interfaith is not about conversion. It is about completion. Becoming what the Muslims call insan-e kamil, a more perfected human being. So, of course, after I came here in 1997, and this became Interfaith Community Church at that time, then I also learned about multiple belonging. You can have not only just one tradition that you follow, maybe even 2, maybe even 3. Like Ann Holmes Redding, she's a Christian and a Muslim. Impossible? She says, no. It's like me having 2 children. I can love them both. Then, of course, I've learned so much about spiritual but not religious. You know, the pioneer, Wayne, I don't think any of you here when Brother Wayne Teasdale came to our place here at least 7, 8 times. Anybody know the name? Wayne Teasdale? He's the one who coined the term interspirituality. It's like Ramakrishna says, you can collect nectar from different flowers. Okay, then there is also secular humanist. Spiritual humanism. Okay, you changed that. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I've learned about that. Wiccan. Atheist agnostic. People say, but how can you consider them to be spiritual people? I love that story, which I like to repeat. The father telling the son, atheist or agnostic, son, there is no God. And so the son, who's encouraged to question, says, Father, how do you know? And the father says, son, you got to take it on faith. So in a sense, we're all spiritual, we're all religious in that sense. Okay, the third aspect was, I wrote the question down, was, let me open this. In what ways are you moving beyond your tribal affiliations? Ask yourself that. How are you able to overcome your prejudices, biases, which is conditioning? We are brought up in that environment, parents, religious elders. So in what ways are you moving beyond tribal affiliations? For me, of course, as I mentioned, let me mention Houston Smith. Houston Smith, who said, he's a very famous professor of comparative religion. He passed away recently. He said, and he mentioned this actually, he said, you can look at the Quran, if you're a Muslim, from one angle. But if as a Muslim you also look at your own holy book from different angles also, it gives you a more complete understanding of your own holy book. So in what ways did I move beyond my tribal affiliations? By studying other religions. And I'll keep it very short. I love metaphors. And so as a child, I loved to meditate on metaphors. I remember the metaphor where it said, meditate on this, all the rivers flow into the ocean. I repeat, all the rivers flow into the ocean. Jamal, you might be following one river. Please don't mistake the river for the ocean. And Jamal, why would you want to convert somebody to your religion? So I always remember as a child, let me ask you, how old are you? 11 years old? Okay. I think I was even younger than that, but I heard that story, maybe I think 9 or 10, which I repeat all the time, which really made an impact. There was a sincere, compassionate monkey who would go to neighborhood ponds and lakes to pluck the fish out of water to save it from a watery grave. Focus on that. There was a sincere, compassionate monkey who would go to neighborhood ponds to pluck the fish out of water to save it from a watery grave. The compassion is there. The sincerity is there. But that has to be accompanied by what the Muslims call ilm, the second most used word in the Quran. Knowledge, awareness, higher understanding. Okay, the last one is, so I ask you to think about it. In what ways are you moving beyond your tribal affiliations in your life? Okay, the last one is, how do you overcome your religious, spiritual conditioning and biases? Well, my parents always said, no matter with this religious, cultural, any kind of bias you have to become a better human being, which means as the Quran says, you have to overcome your biases, your prejudices. How? By transforming your ego. And I love this sentence in Islamic spirituality. You simply have to do the work of transforming your ego from a commanding master into a personal assistant. The I, the me, holier than thou attitude. And the Quran says you got to even do more. Cleanse your heart. It mentions remove the rust from your heart. It goes on to say open your heart. Expand it. So how do I expand it besides traveling? The second part the Quran says is to overcome your biases. A verse in the Quran says if Allah wanted, Allah could have made all of us one single community, but God chose to create diversity so you might come to know the other on a human level. So, am I getting to know the other on a human level? Somebody who is outside my tribal affiliation. A Trump supporter. A very conservative Christian, Hindu, Muslim, whatever it might be. Am I doing that? Or am I just staying in my own tribe? My own club, you might say. Every holy book says, the Quran says, get to know the other on a human level. And the Quran has this very powerful verse. Allah has created some of you to be a trial for others. It's meant to be so. It's not easy. So can I do that? So ask yourself, what practices am I doing to overcome my biases?
Thank you, Jamal. And then let's get back in our small groups and take a few more minutes. You can answer any one of those questions, and they overlap a lot. So reach out, speak to the one that moves you the most, and we'll have some more time to talk. Okay, let's bring that to a close and gather again. Jamal, why don't you come up here so in case anybody has any questions too. So I know we could go on, and that's the fun part is putting it into our own perspectives. Does anyone have anything to share, an insight that you gained specifically from your conversations, something that you came up with yourself that you felt would be worth sharing? This is our time to ask questions if you have them, or just make a comment about how that experience was for you, the sharing of ideas. And I can just bring the microphone along. The camera won't be focused on you, and you don't have to say your name, but share what you might want to share.
Don't have your question, any comments, anything you really want to share?
Anything, yeah, whatever's on your mind. I know you've been sharing in your group, or something that you heard that you felt was meaningful for you.
Something that splashed in your heart.
Well, in our group, everyone had such a variety of experiences, And I think this is just true for every human being. Everyone's had their own experiential line that's led them to where they are. And they're there because of all those things that happen. So whenever you run across somebody who says, well, they shouldn't be doing that. Well, you're saying, oh, well, then you need to erase things that happened to them. And that can't do that. So that doesn't work. So that's just a good thing to have in your mind. Whenever you're dealing with somebody that you're finding difficult and think, well, they shouldn't be doing this. There's a reason why they're doing it. You just don't know what it is. So, okay.
This is more just a wishful thought or hope, because I really do feel this is a discussion within a community. We're still a community in a sense, and I certainly emotionally and other ways I feel that. And I thought, well, I enjoyed this so much, but I think it would be extremely instructive and maybe even expansive if I was having this conversation in a very conservative, looking at things from a different point of view. Maybe that's the better way to put it. That might be something I should look forward to doing, to really, I guess, enlarge my understanding and also work on that compassion and understanding.
And that requires a lot of listening. Yes.
Thank you. Any other comments or ideas? All right. Well, we do encourage you to participate in other community discussions, and Jamal and I have been working a lot on getting together in the larger community of Seattle with interfaith leaders, people of faith leaders who are interested in discussing topics with other people of other faiths. And so we'll be mentioning some events and some opportunities in the future to enlarge our circle of who we're discussing important ideas with. So hopefully people will join in. So at this point, we're going to bring this part of the service to an end. We're going to pass the plate and ask for people if they are able to share their wealth. We certainly appreciate any contributions that you can make. Many people contribute over the internet through there's a QR code in the program. I know that people online donate online through our website, interfaithcommunitysanctuary.org. Many people have checks sent in from their bank. There are many ways to support our work, and particularly also with the hours, the volunteer hours that people put in and the different activities. And there's so many different activities throughout the week and the month that happen here. I want to get right into that. Just Friday night, there was a beautiful gathering of people who were with Isla Ross, who were chanting and singing, and we created a beautiful mandala in the middle of the sanctuary here, where we were honoring our ancestors and asking for prayers of healing for people that we know who are in pain. And it was a beautiful, beautiful way that people can get together and just express their compassion, our deep understanding of suffering in the world and trying to make the world a better place. And this is what we encourage you to do. Look at all the different offerings that are happening here in our sanctuary every day of the week. And it's all online on our website. And if you sign up for our little Monday morning newsletter, you can read about the special events that happened that week, as well as the regular events that happened that week. And we also have classes and workshops. And Jamal has a class he's offering starting in October 3rd that goes through November 7th. It's an online Zoom class. So he has people from all over the country and sometimes even in other parts of the world joining this class on Saturday mornings from 10 a.m. to noon Pacific time. And this upcoming class that starts October 3rd will be focusing on his latest book, Fragrance of the Quran, Reflections on Verses of Beauty and Wisdom, that he wrote this past year, and that's suggested reading, and he's going to be using that as a basis for the class and looking together to glean wisdom, guidance, and inspiration for our life journey together. So if you're interested in joining that, you can talk to Jamal or to myself. Some folks are going to be up at Indralaya with Jamal in early September, also at a 4-day retreat, and that's off campus here. That's up in Orcas Island in the San Juans for 4 days, and that'll be beautiful. And I know that Elizabeth is planning a retreat in October, isn't it? I'm trying to think of what the date. Do you remember, Rashid? Okay. All right. We will, again, look online for that. I think she has reserved it online, and she's going to be sending out some also emails about that. And so some things happen off campus, is my point. Some things happen online, on Zoom, but a lot of it happens right here in our sanctuary. And after the service today, we have root beer floats and fruit and coffee and tea for anyone who'd like to join us downstairs. And, yeah.
One very important announcement on September 24th, which is a Thursday, 7 to 8:30, Sister Lucy from Maher is coming here. She is the lady, she's been here for, in fact, before 2000 actually even here, she started here talking to us about her passion for helping the marginalized in India. From where, I think you might know Mangesh, she's come here, who has led as a counselor, the lead counselor, lead director, the peace camp here. So Sister Lucy, a Catholic nun, has established many, many homes for the marginalized, the poor, the orphans, the widowed, all over India. And she has received actually national and international recognition. But it's amazing that when she first came here in the late 1998 or 99, it was a very small program she had. And now it's become international. Really because of her heartfelt sincerity, her heartfelt dedication, devotion, that has really expanded. So please come and listen to her story, and we can learn a lot from her. And she wants to learn from us also, from each one of you. So it's a Thursday, September 24th. Yeah, 7 to 8:30.
This year we are doing a talent show, October 17th, 7 o'clock. There'll be a bake sale, I think. And so if anybody, and I'm going to MC it. I've done this in the past, master of hijinks. So if you want to perform, and our version of talent is very expansive. So the gates are wide open, and we've had all kinds of things over the years that people have done.
It's always been great fun.
Yeah, and you'll never perform in front of a more loving audience, I'll guarantee you that. So if anybody wants to participate, come see me, I'll get you on the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And we will now officially end our program, our service for the folks out at home. I'll ring our bell. And we send you on our way with our blessings. And those of us who are here will take a few more moments to offer any personal prayers or concerns that you have on your heart that you would like to mention to the group, and we'll do our closing blessing after that. So I know went a little long today, but please take a moment, and if you have some prayers in your heart, I know I would like to mention prayers for all the folks, all the people, and all the property, and all the losses that have taken place in Nepal and in Tibet, and in the horrible, horrible flooding that has gone on there, and the avalanche. And it's really mind-boggling how extensive that has been. And I know in my Tonglen meditation, that was a big